Hello, welcome back to my channel. Hit that subscribe button, give me a thumbs up. In today's podcast, we're going to talk about the DeBarge documentary that was released at the Slamdance Film Festival on last month. Did you see it? Comment below if you saw it. It follows James and Randy DeBarge, members of the 80s group DeBarge, as they live in an RV. Now, I believe I read that this was filmed during the pandemic, or they ended filming around 2021. So this sent shockwaves throughout the internet of seeing them, Randy and James, at their lowest, living like this. It's something that you don't expect. They're 80s icons. Their music has been sampled so much. You just don't expect them to be living like this. So speaking of that, who do you blame? Do you blame the music industry, do you think? Do you think it's addiction is to blame? Or do you blame their family, who maybe knew that they were living like this and maybe could have did something to help them? I don't know. Comment below. Or is it anybody's fault? I don't know when this documentary will be released yet, or if it will be released. As you can imagine, maybe some of the family members could be upset. There was one reviewer who saw the documentary. He mentioned DeBarge was upset. I guess there are scenes in the documentary that show him being upset with it being filmed. So the family might not be too happy with this documentary being released. I don't know if we'll get to see it or not, but I'm all for James telling his truth or his side. He was married to Janet Jackson, so he might want to, basically pour out what's on his heart and maybe wants the world to know. So I'm for hearing his story. This might not be the best way to do it, but I definitely want to hear it. And my prayers, I've always prayed since I've been a fan since 2010 for the DeBarge family. So we're going to get into this podcast, so stay tuned.
Okay, so are you ready to dive into some serious drama?
Always up for a good story.
Well, today's deep dive is going to be a wild ride. It's all about DeBarge.
Oh, wow. The Rhythm of the Night DeBarge.
That's right. The iconic family band from the 80s.
I'm intrigued. What's the story here?
Well, there's a brand new documentary premiering at Slamdance, and it's called DeBarge. Simple as that.
Straight to the point, I like it.
Yeah, and get this. This documentary, it's not just about their music. It's like a behind-the-scenes look at their lives.
The good, the bad, and the ugly.
Exactly. We're talking fame, addiction, family feuds, even homelessness.
Wow, that's heavy stuff.
Yeah.
Especially for a family who reached such musical heights.
Right. It's a real roller coaster of a story. And what's even more fascinating is that the documentary really zooms in on James DeBarge.
Oh, you mean the James DeBarge who was married to Janet Jackson?
That's the one. That whole relationship was like a tabloid frenzy back in the day. But this documentary goes way deeper than that.
Sounds like they're trying to tell a more nuanced story.
Definitely. They really get into the family dynamics and all the pressures they faced.
Being in the spotlight can be brutal, especially for a family in the music industry.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
And when I said this documentary is raw, I meant it. Like, they don't sugarcoat anything.
What do you mean?
I mean, there are scenes of family members living in RVs on the streets of LA. Can you imagine?
That's heartbreaking, to go from sold-out concerts to that.
It's crazy, right? Like,
Yeah.
Rhythm of the Night will never sound the same to me after seeing that.
I can imagine. It really makes you question the whole idea of fame and fortune.
Totally. And here's another thing. That rawness I was talking about, well, not everyone in the family was happy about it.
Oh, so there's some controversy surrounding the documentary.
You could say that. Some of the family members weren't even told about it, let alone gave their consent.
Whoa, that's a whole other ethical can of worms.
Right. Like, who has the right to tell their story? It's complicated.
For sure. Makes you think about the responsibility filmmakers have to be sensitive to their subjects, especially when it's a family with so much history and baggage.
Absolutely. So just to be clear, the documentary features interviews with James, Randy L. Tommy Bunny and their mother, Ederline.
Quite the lineup.
Yeah, and it was directed by Matthew Serretta and produced by Serretta, Nicholas Peronian, and Sean McWilliams.
Okay, so whose idea was this documentary anyway?
That's a good question. You know what makes it even more interesting, though? The fact that DeBarge is in it.
Wait, DeBarge, he owns the rights to all their music, right?
Yep. So his involvement definitely adds another layer to the whole thing.
Makes you wonder if he had any influence on the direction of the film.
Totally. So look, if you were a fan of DeBarge back in the day, or if you're just interested in the human stories behind the music, you got to check this documentary out.
Sounds like it's more than just your typical music biopic.
Oh, it is. It's a real eye-opener. And it really makes you think about the dark side of fame.
Definitely. It begs the question, does the music industry do enough to support its artists?